Coming up on tonight's UAP News Show.
T-minus 1 day until the release of Lue Elizondo's book, Imminent.
What does Operation Palladium, the declassified Majestic 12 documents, and JFK's assassination have in common?
I wonder. Meet John Boroughs, the man receiving full medical disability due to his UAP encounter during the 1980 Rendlesham Force incident.
James Fox's upcoming documentary, The Program is Done, and he's looking for investors.
And new UFOs over Cali.
Hey there, beautiful souls. It's your girl, Allie. We are back at it again for another episode of UAP Society's weekly UAP and UFO News Show. I'm stoked to get started, so without further ado, Justin, say hey.
Greetings, cosmic enthusiasts. It's Justin here. Let's get right to it.
All right, up first, T-minus 1 day until the release of Lue Elizondo's book, Imminent. All right, you guys, the countdown is about to come to a conclusion as tomorrow is when Lue Elizondo's highly anticipated book, Imminent, will be released. I'm sure you've heard just about everyone in the UFO community talking about this book, and hopefully you've ordered your own copy by now. If you haven't, it's not too late, and we've got you covered. A link to get your copy can be found in the video description box below, so make sure to go there and check that out.
In this next clip from Need to Know, we hear from hosts Ross Skolhart and Bryce Zabel as they discuss not only this upcoming book, but an exclusive upcoming television interview as well that's due to drop this Friday. But unfortunately, due to a recently signed NDA, Ross can't say too much. Let's see what tea he did spill.
Hello and welcome to Need to Know. Well, everybody seems to think that the UAP issue has died down. Maybe the gatekeepers think we've all gone back into our burrows and we're passively waiting for the government to tell us anything sometime in the next 30 to 50 years. Well, don't worry, friends, there is hope on the horizon. And to tell us all, let's bring in my friend and colleague, Bryce Zabel.
Well, I don't think that they're probably shutting us down for another 50 years, maybe another 5 months for the election stuff to settle down, but I think we're probably doing okay. I'm still an optimist. I don't know. That's just how I'm coming at this thing now. How you doing?
I'm very well, mate. I'm very, very well. As you know, I've just been in the United States, and I'm sure we can talk about why I've been in the United States. What I can reveal, I think this is the first time I'm able to speak about it publicly, is that I have recorded the first major television interview with Lue Elizondo since the book Imminent was published. And he will be appearing on Banfield, News Nation, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, next Friday the 23rd. And you're going to see a slow rollout of some of what Lue's told me over the next week.
Listen, I'm ready to talk about Lue Elizondo's book, Imminent, because I got a copy of it from a couple of sources. And so I've read most of it, and I have a couple of thoughts, and I just wonder, I want to support your interview, but I assume your interview, what's your take? Can we talk about it?
Well, unfortunately, my friend, and this will make you giggle maniacally because of the fact that NDAs are used to suppress whistleblowers inside the national security state, I am bound by an NDA not to talk about the Elizondo Imminent book until it is formally released, which I think is coming up on the 20th. And I mean, short of selling my firstborn daughter, I wouldn't want to risk even discussing anything in the book because, unfortunately, I am constrained by an NDA that would make the Pentagon proud. Well, and unfortunately, I think the book version that you're talking about, from what I heard, frustratingly, there was a British end of the publishing arm that's responsible for publishing the book that inadvertently posted, I think, a chunk of the book, not all of the book, up online. And yes, there have been people who've been passing it around, naughty bootleg copies, and unfortunately, I'm just not allowed to talk about it.
Listen, I support authors and writers, so I'll tell you what I've done. I bought 3 versions of Lue's book already. I bought the hardcover, the audiobook, and the Kindle. So I would urge anyone who does get one of those other bootleg copies, as you called it, to do the same, to at least pay the man the respect of buying the book that you've read.
In addition to that, the Daily Mail also released an article called Former Head of Secret Government UFO Program Reveals Why He is Certain Pentagon has material from crashed non-human spacecraft. That came with an embedded video clip of their interview with him.
A clip from that article reads, "The memoir is bursting with other jaw-dropping revelations and claims, including a 2016 plan Elizondo and colleagues hatched to catch a UFO in the ocean, and his family's own disturbing experience with green orbs floating through their house. The ex-Defense Intelligence Agency official revealed Donald Trump was briefed on the government's UFO program during his presidency and detailed in his book some intriguing and previously known UFO incidents."
I remember distinctly a conversation I had with Dr. Lakatsky during the early time when he was, I think, assessing me is probably what they were doing. See if I would be a good fit. And I remember him very distinctly at the end of the conversation. He pulled his glasses down and he looked over his glasses at me and he said, "What do you think about UFOs?" And I paused for a moment and I responded truthfully. I said, "I don't." And he said, "Well, do you not believe in them?" And I said, "No, I didn't say that. You asked me if I thought about what do I think about UFOs, and I said I don't. I don't have the luxury to think about them. I'm too busy, trying to chase bad guys and make things work." And he said to me, he said, "Well, that's fair enough, but don't let your own personal bias get the best of you, because what you may learn here, may challenge any preconceived notions or narratives that you have." And that's really when I first learned what this program was about. We were getting multiple reports, a lot of reports of UAP. We call them UAP now, but in the vernacular, UFOs were being encountered over controlled U.S. airspace and theaters of combat, and were posing, in some cases, a flight safety risk to our pilots. Now, what do I mean by that? So we have reports and videos, in some cases, of these UAP, UFOs, splitting a combat formation. Now, if you know what a combat formation is, these aircraft fly very close to each other in a combat scenario, right? So they're like this. When you have a UAP splitting the formation, that's problematic. Furthermore, we have countless reports of these things being encountered over controlled U.S. airspace, over sensitive military facilities and installations, and we had no idea where these things were from. The origin, we had no clue. Their performance characteristics were stunning. These were beyond next generation technology. These were things that could perform in ways that outperformed anything that we had in our inventory, and we were pretty sure outperformed anything that our adversaries had. We were getting these routine pleas, these cries from the field. In fact, I remember one email very specifically where one of the senior people in the fleet, a very senior officer, basically said, "Look, these things are all over the ship. I don't know what to tell you. I can't keep people below deck forever and keep this a secret. What do you want me to do?" We keep telling him, "Look, the cavalry's coming. We've got these plans in place to help you out." And every time we would want to get this briefed up to a higher level, we were being stovepiped and then cut off. We actually had at one point a trap set up to collect information on these UAP. I can only talk about it because I've now had approval by the Pentagon to talk about it. It has now been cleared for me to talk about it. But we had a plan to set up a real big nuclear footprint, something we knew would be irresistible for these UAP. And then once we started seeing these UAP, the trap would be sprung. Congress is being briefed fairly routinely by whistleblowers. Some of them have not been made public yet. New whistleblowers are ready to come out, provided they had the right legal protection. Oh, we were told by the people who had the material. I mean, it's kind of when they sit there and say, "Yeah, look, we're happy to have this conversation with you. There's some things that you're going to need to do if you want, more access to it. But yeah, we're happy to give this stuff to you." That's a big deal. That's kind of I'm careful what I say here, but that's a holy cow moment, right? But you could probably put some expletives in there if you wanted to. That's a seismic revelation. And of course, then you have the material science and analysis that's been done on some of this material, which, look, despite what some people say now, like, "Oh, well, this is a missile casing from the 1950s. I know for a fact, because I had a member, and I'm not going to say which company, but let's just say one of the most elite aerospace corporations in the world do analysis on it. And I can tell you that what they came to a conclusion with, and after they actually was able to manufacture at a macro, very crude level at over $1 million and broke the machine in the process, we know conclusively This was not technology that was manufactured in the 1950s by some sort of missile company. Look, if you look at it temporally and say, well, maybe the Russians have that technology now. Okay, sure. Let's suspend reality and say they do. But they didn't in the late 1940s. And so that would be like walking into King Tut's tomb and, Carter finding a fully assembled 747. I think it's pretty clear that when you first see Trump being asked about the topic, he said, yeah, I don't particularly believe it. But interestingly, the next time he was asked, he's like, hey, there's something there. There's something to it, right?
Telling you, I think Trump is the coup de grace Matthew Pines was referring to, but I could be wrong, and that has yet to be determined. I know, it's okay. It's all right. We don't have to agree. It's all good.
Yeah.
We have another clip that we're going to show you, but before I move on to that next and last one, the part about making a trap for UAPs is freaking wild. Like, if you read that article that we referred to earlier, the Daily Mail article, he talks about literally the fact that they know that UAPs love to be around nuclear stuff. They love water. So what they did was they got a nuclear facility that was on a coast. They had nuclear stuff on the land. They put a ship in the water that had nuclear stuff on it. And then they said they had a submarine with nuclear stuff in it under the water. So they literally set a freaking alien trap with nuclear material because they knew that the UAPs were attracted to that.
Well, of course they know that. I mean,
it's the idea of them setting a trap to catch UFOs, though. It's just like, oh, UFOs don't exist, but we know what they like. We know where they hang out. We know how to catch them.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like they literally went UFO fishing.
Right. They set the bait. I mean, crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty wild to think about. I want to know if they physically captured, some of these craft, or if they were just able to get, new additional data on the craft. Just from recording them.
I would be happy with knowing either of those.
Yeah, me too.
You know what I mean?
Me too.
I mean, there's already cartoons circulating online. I'm like picturing it in my brain, so I'm going to try to describe it. It's like an Elmer Fudd looking dude hanging out behind a tree, and he's got like a chain that goes to like a bear trap. And he's got like a nuke set in the middle, and he's sitting there like hee, like waiting for the aliens to show up. Oh my God, it's freaking ridiculous. But at the same time, it's like, man. All right, let's move on.
Yeah.
Go. You want to say something? Go ahead.
I mean, I just had a thought. Like,
go ahead.
if we are trying to get this non-human intelligence to openly interact with humanity, and that is the goal. Yeah. Why are we setting traps to capture them?
We're sucking at being a welcome party. I mean, you're right. If that's how humans like want to,
I don't know,
create an interaction with ET, that's a pretty shitty way to do it.
Well, okay, but hold on. Entertain this thought though. There's multiple different types of NHI that are interacting with us, or maybe they're not interacting with us willingly. Maybe they're just here for some other reason, and they don't give a crap about humanity.
Okay.
What if those are the ones that we were trying to set traps for? If the government really is setting traps for aliens, that's not good, right? I mean, that's right.
No, I'm sorry. I just got really distracted by the light getting super bright. I was like, oh my God, confirmation from the universe. Okay.
All right, so if we are setting traps for, ET, that's super shitty, right?
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, these are living, intelligent beings, that we are capturing.
The thought of humans luring in NHI is like scary enough, right? Like, just the whole concept of doing that is like super freaking risky, right? But then my mind goes to like, well, okay, then what? Like you just said, they're living sentient creatures that are operating these craft, right? So like, what do they do with them? Are they locked up in some Area 51 bunker somewhere? Are they in a tube of formaldehyde floating around with it lit up from the bottom, like in Men in Black? Like, where are they? What are they doing with them? I mean, what kind of conversations is our government having with these other races of intelligent beings, and then like not letting us know anything about, like we're totally not supposed to know any of this stuff.
Yeah. Dan Burrish is coming to mind.
Okay.
If you guys haven't heard of Dan Boroughs, in the 90s and early 2000s, he was a quote unquote whistleblower that came out saying that he was tasked with studying the biologics of these non-human intelligences, and he said that we had a being that was captured.
J-Rod, right?
What?
Was his name J-Rod? Is that what you're talking about?
No, he was there. The term J-Rod refers to an extraterrestrial, right? It's not his name. It's just what they called the aliens. They called them J-Rods.
Okay.
All right. So basically, Dan Boroughs had interactions with this ET, and through those interactions, he basically learned that we were holding this being captive, and it was super shitty.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about that. And
right.
I agree, it's shitty.
Yeah, but he also, if you look into his story, he has also claimed that the ET was not the only one that was here. That he was a part of a big group, right? And there was quote unquote elites within his own race, within his own group, that are being treated much better than he was being treated. And they had like special treatment. So that makes me think, okay, so what if our government has agreements, with these NHI, that they let them abduct humans, right? And we get to have some of their, owns to study. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's like a trade there. What if that is the case?
Well, and see, I have a problem with that, because when you say we, that means all of us humans, right? But like, there's a special group of humans that are operating and speaking on the behalf of the rest of us that don't have the know that they know. So it's like they're representing all of us without us having any kind of say in that. And I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
Yeah, I don't like that either.
I don't think that's cool. Like, that's what we've been talking about before with the whole idea of these agreements. Like, if there are agreements between our government and certain races of aliens, okay, who? Which ones? What's in the contract? What did you sign us up for? What are we being like subjected to without even knowing about it, let alone having our consent?
Right.
Hello, what about consent?
Right.
I mean, Jesus. But we're digressing pretty hard.
We are. So all right, so basically, I don't think it's right that we are quote unquote going fishing, trying to set traps.
Let's move on. I feel like we're digressing really hard.
Okay.
Okay. So in addition to the two videos we've already showed you, the first one was Ross Coulthart and Bryce Zabel. The second one was Lue Elizondo with the Daily Mail. So now let's move on to the last one. So we have a tweet from UAP James that says, Lue Elizondo on CBS Mornings, America can handle the truth. So he's already done a little bit of an interview with the Daily Mail, a little bit of an interview with CBS, and Friday we've got the big one that's supposed to drop with Ross Coulthart.
Yeah.
I thought that the Ross Coulthart one was going to be the first and only, but so I was like surprised by these little Daily Mail CBS little teasers first.
Yeah.
But hey, it's all right. The more we talk about this, the better.
Yeah.
He is the author of the new book, Imminent, Inside the Pentagon's Hunt for UFOs. In it, he writes these crafts are not made by humans, and they present a very serious national security issue. Lue Elizondo joins us first right here on CBS Mornings. Welcome.
Thank you. My honor and privilege.
Yeah, a lot of people, I think, even if you don't believe in UFOs or you are someone that definitely believes that there is something out there, you talk about this idea of these crafts being created to, quote, be friends from out of town. What makes you so certain that they're not made by humans? And also, if I could, early in your book, you said when governments lie to their people, all of democracy is at risk. Do you think the government is lying?
Well, we know that the government never lies, right? The Iran-Contra, Pentagon Papers, Afghanistan withdrawal. No, unfortunately, the government is not this huge colossal machine, if you will. It's segregated into these little fiefdoms, if you will. And unfortunately, they don't always coordinate and talk with one another. As far as these vehicles not being made by humans, if you will, that's not me saying that. We have scientists, some of the top scientists that your taxpayer dollars have paid for them to conduct this research. And at the end of the day, when you're studying the material and you're studying the capabilities of these vehicles, and frankly, there's nothing that we have that compares to what these vehicles can do, the capabilities that they're demonstrating in front of us, then one has to ask, well, where are they from? And if it's not our technology and it's not some sort of adversarial technology, it's someone's technology.
In a statement to CBS News, the Pentagon spokesperson said that the department will follow the data wherever it leads. However, to date, we have not found any credible evidence of extraterrestrial activity. Are there other explanations that should be considered? Is there hard evidence that this is a non-human technology?
That's a great point. And so I think we need to look at this from a temporal aspect, a time aspect. I think if you were to look at it now and say, well, there's no evidence these things are, if you will, not human. The reality is we've been dealing with this topic as a government for decades. So it's not like there's some sort of adversarial technology that just popped on the proverbial radar that's ahead of us. This is something we've been dealing with as a nation for 60 years. So let's put that into perspective. This would be like going into King Tut's tomb for the very first time and finding a fully assembled 747 inside the tomb. It doesn't make sense. Right? From a time perspective, we're talking the 1950s, the late 1940s, where this technology has been demonstrated over controlled U.S. airspace, over some of our most sensitive military installations. And by the way, there's official U.S. documentation that substantiates this.
You know what, Lou? I really enjoyed your book. I thought it was really eye-opening about the secrets that people keep. You make a point of saying you believe secrets have an expiration date. And it seems you and your family really went through hell as part of your job, both physically and mentally. And at one point, you ended up quitting your job, and your wife said to you, who quits a job without a job? And you said to her what?
Well, I said to her a lot of things, I'm sure. At the end of the day, I made the decision to leave my job and pursue this topic because it was the right thing to do. And I don't think my family would have respected me if I didn't.
You said a man who can't live with himself. That's the line that stood out to me. But why do they want to keep this a secret? And what do you mean that secrets have expiration dates in less than 90 seconds?
Sure, less than 90 seconds. Well, secrets are made to protect two things, sources and methods. They're not designed to stop, if you will, the American people from learning the truth about embarrassing things or trying to hide things. This is a topic where I believe America can handle the truth. And I think America deserves to know the truth about this topic, about your taxpayer money that's been spent over the decades to try to figure out just what the heck is going on. Look, you have former directors of national intelligence, former directors of CIA, and even former presidents all coming out saying, yeah, this is a valid and real topic and a national security issue.
Yeah, and I think there's so much information in that book. We so appreciate and wish we had more time, Lue. Lue Elizondo, thank you for coming in. Imminent goes on sale tomorrow, wherever you buy your books.
And there you have it. And I'm just looking at the time, at what time we're recording this, and I'm thinking about how much time it's going to take me to edit it. By the time I get it online, it will be the 20th. So, Imminent's out today, guys! Yay! Now we're all going to get our copies in the mail, or however you purchased it, audiobook, whatever. And holy snappies, guys! Strap in, the ride is about to begin!
Right? Hold on to your butts.
Right. Oh, that's one of my favorite lines from Jurassic Park. I love it.
Yeah, guys. So I am super excited. I can't wait to actually read the book. I can't wait to get it in my hands. Supposedly, we will have it here today. That's what Amazon says. So hopefully Amazon will deliver your copy as well. Yeah, I'm super excited. You know, I can't wait to see what's in the book.
Same.
You know, I mean, so many mind-blowing revelations are about to happen, I believe. So
yep. And like Pine said, this is supposed to be like the catalyst that creates all these other things to unfold. So here we go.
Yeah.
All right. So what do you guys think? Is today going to be the disclosure bombshell everybody's been hoping for? What do you think will happen after everyone reads the contents of this book? What are you anticipating will come from all of these revelations? Let us know in the comment section below.
What does Operation Palladium, the declassified Majestic 12 documents, and JFK's assassination have in common?
A lot, apparently.
Previously on this show, we've speculated about and discussed how JFK's assassination and the UFO phenomena were intrinsically intertwined. Well, this week on News Nation, Ross Cohart sat down with former Australian intelligence official Jeff Cruikshank and pretty much confirmed just that. In the next video clip, they deep dive into what JFK may have known about UFO reports, Operation Palladium, the declassified Majestic 12 documents, and whether there could be connections to JFK's assassination. There's a lot of information in this conversation, so make sure you've got your ears on.
So let's roll back to 1959. A man whose name will become notorious, Lee Harvey Oswald, enters the Soviet Union and claims to be a defector. Let's roll forward to another year later, and we're in a prison in Cuba called the Isle of Pines. And there, a CIA scientist called David Lamar Christ is being horribly tortured by brutal Cuban and Russian interrogators. And he's revealing all about a secret program he knows all about. Let's also go to Vienna in 1961. And the new president, JFK, is having a conversation with Nikita Khrushchev, the premier of the Soviet Union. Khrushchev complains about things that the CIA are doing that JFK knows nothing about. And let's just call this show a series of unfortunate events, because we now need to roll forward to 1984. And a researcher by the name of Jamie Shandera opens an envelope that's been sent to his home in Los Angeles, and out rolls a roll of film. And when developed, this film shows images of documents that have become notorious. MJ-12, Majestic 12. These documents purport to reveal that the Roswell 1947 incident was the crash of an alien spacecraft, and that technology and bodies were recovered, and that the whole thing was covered up by President Truman, and it's been overseen by a committee known as Majestic 12 in the years since. Now, I've long been a skeptic about Majestic 12, and I still am. I think we should be. We should be very, very skeptical about documents that bob up from nowhere. But today, you're going to meet a very interesting person called Jeff Cruikshank. He's a former Australian intelligence official who's worked in an agency so secret, I can't even tell you what it is. But he has had a top secret SCI clearance. He's very briefed into the intrigue inside the Five Eyes Alliance. And today, he's going to tell all about what he's discovered about a very dark period of Cold War history. JFK knew a bit about UFOs, you contend. Tell me why you think JFK knew something about the phenomenon.
Well, he knew quite a bit, Ross, as he entered the Oval Office in 1961. But what he didn't know was the existence of a very, very highly classified program called Palladium that was injecting false UAP signals into the Soviet air defense system, messing with their heads. And the man that was one of the masterminds of that program, as you alluded to, was David Lamar Christ, who was the CIA's real-life equivalent of James Bond's Q character. And he was languishing in the prison in Cuba.
So basically, Lamar Christ told all to his Russian and Cuban interrogators, do we assume?
Well, in his debrief, he was released in 1963 in April in a deal negotiated by James Donovan, who was the head of the OSS. General James Donovan was also a trained lawyer. In his debrief, the CIA found that Dave Christ had actually lied about what he'd told the Cubans, and he was prevented from leaving the country after that.
But it's always been a question in my mind whether the first bundle of documents that was sent to ufologist researcher Jamie Shandera in 1984, it's always been a question in my mind whether the documents that he was sent, which purported to detail the Roswell crash and what Truman did about it, whether they were authentic and as part of a disinformation program. So in terms of the Operation Palladium that you're talking about, Palladium, what are you saying? Are you saying that Operation Palladium is a proven operation that the CIA was running that isn't part of the MJ-12 documents?
Yes, that's correct. That was declassified in 2003. One of the architects, Bud Whelan, spoke about it to the Roadrunners in 2003, and he said in that talk that they were recently declassified.
So let me get this right. What the CIA was doing out of Atsugi in Japan and Peshawar in Pakistan was they were sending up spurious signals through radar that were tricking the Soviet air defense warning over the horizon radar into thinking that what they were seeing were, what, UFOs, UAPs?
Just phantom signals. They weren't sure what they were because at the time, this is the period before that ICBMs are actually the prime delivery method for nuclear weapons. So General Curtis LeMay's Strategic Air Command was the primary delivery mechanism for nuclear weapons to Soviet targets.
Okay, so just explain to me, why does this matter? I mean, what's the relevance of this to the whole UFO anomalous phenomena issue? Who cares? Why is it relevant to this debate?
Because there was evidence that there were actually UFOs and UAPs flying around at the time. The Washington flyover in 1952 was a dedicated, what they call in the military, a show of force by someone. So rather than working with the Soviets to figure out what this force was that had flying within our airspace with impunity, they decided to use psyops to trick the Soviets.
Isn't the more plausible explanation, Jeff, that the Majestic documents were what some people in the CIA have tried to explain them away as, an effort by the Americans to persuade the Soviets to spend a useless amount of money on investigating things that didn't exist? That's always been the explanation that I have to admit I've bought on the Majestic 12 documents, that Jesus James Angleton, who was the head of counterintelligence for the CIA, was essentially creating these false documents in order to divert the Soviets into a fruitless investigation into UFOs. You don't buy that?
Well, that's what Angleton's job was, to, psychological warfare on the Soviets. But what happened after the Vienna conference was Khrushchev told Kennedy to knock off the Palladium system program. Kennedy knew nothing about it. And again, as Danny Sheehan explained about the raids on Cuba, the CIA were running their own show down there. Kennedy probably realised that after the Bay of Pigs invasion. Khrushchev told him to knock it off. That didn't happen. So Khrushchev upped the ante and said, we'll put missiles in Cuba to get around the early warning system. You'll have 5 minutes warning before a nuclear attack. And that's what precipitated the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Wow. So this is an alternative counter-history that I don't think a lot of people in the public are even aware of. You believe not only that the Majestic documents are real, but that there's enough on the historical record that is authenticated by genuine, confirmed archives documents, CIA documents, to show that the CIA was running these black operations without the knowledge of the president, and that the president was essentially ordering the agency to engage more openly with the Soviets about UFOs.
Yeah, that's correct. The Palladium was formalised when Bud Whelan came on board from TRW, which made almost everything for the US military. So that they had no intention of rolling back Palladium, and it just escalated from there. Kennedy had no control over that. Dulles responded in November 1961, the 5th of November, and said basically, and it's that document that actually specifies the Palladium specifics about injecting signals into Soviet air defences and those sorts of operations. And right at the end, when Kennedy is asking about MJ-12, Dulles says the details of those operations are properly classified under the 1954 Atomic Energy Act. So the President of the United States does not have a need to know about those operations. Kennedy fired.
So that's in the MJ-12 document. I find it hilarious that the head of the CIA would ostensibly be telling the President of the United States, the commander of the armed forces, that he has no right to know about something that's properly classified under the Department of Energy laws. I mean, legally, that's bullshit, surely.
That's the way the US law is written. And as you've often said, that US presidents are often considered temporary employees.
Crazy.
In light of all of what you've discovered, the MJ-12 documents that show JFK urging the CIA to be more open with the Soviets about UFOs, you believe that might explain why JFK was murdered?
That's correct. There's another document called the Important Memo that states that after the Cuban Missile Crisis, JFK had to get an emergency MJ-12 briefing. And I believe that's because the CIA lost control of the debris because the US Navy had control of the debris and it sent it on its way to Albuquerque Operations Office.
And I think that's very significant because one of my sources who I can name was a former US Navy head of research, Nat Kovitz, who did acknowledge to me that the US Navy was peeved with the US Air Force. You know, he felt that the US Air Force was trying to control the narrative on UFOs and block the Navy and other arms of the armed forces from knowing about what the US Air Force know. There is a lot of inter-service rivalry. So what you're describing there does sound very plausible to me, that there was resentment inside the Navy, that the Air Force was trying to keep what they'd recovered at Roswell very secret.
Yep. And, 27th of October, 1962, that's when the second U-2 was shot down over Cuba. And Khrushchev did not authorize that shoot down. So the appearance of a non-human intelligence and a off-world craft in the middle of that crisis possibly helped to defuse the situation when both leaders, Kennedy and Khrushchev, realized that they weren't in control. There was faceless bureaucrats or military leaders in the background actually calling the shots and possibly made them step back from the brink of nuclear annihilation.
Mm. And that's why Khrushchev was so upset that JFK was murdered.
He got rolled in October 1964, I believe, himself by Brezhnev. So, yep.
But as I understand it, when JFK was murdered, I think one of Khrushchev's children has described his incredible sadness that JFK had been killed, because what is consistent with history is that JFK was being incredibly, he was making it an imperative for the Americans to deconflict with the Soviets and to avoid aggressive confrontation. He was much more conciliatory than sections of the military, including nutjobs like General Curtis LeMay, wanted him to be.
Yeah, that's correct.
So like we said earlier, we've speculated and talked about it on the show before, how we think that JFK's assassination is related to the UFO phenomenon, but I had never heard of Operation Palladium before. I did hear about the Majestic 12 and those documents, and isn't there a book, Magic Eyes Only, or something like that? Is that what it's called? That's about those things, right? Those documents? So. Huh?
I think so.
Okay, anyways. But yeah, I didn't really realize that, well, Operation Palladium, that I had never heard of, and the Majestic documents tied into the potential connection between JFK's assassination and these activities. I also find it really intriguing that, once again, Russia comes up when we're talking about like old UFO stuff. It's like Russia came up when we were talking about Project Stargate and Lue Elizondo's remote viewing and him learning how to do all that. And the reason why that whole project was funded or began or started was because they were in competition with the Russians. Now we're talking about Russia again when it comes to Roswell and the whole JFK assassination. I don't know. I just find it really weird that it seems like it's always like some kind of arms race to like better up the other guy. I don't know. It's just a weird human egotistical.
So it's like we're in an arms race with whoever the adversary is at the time.
Yeah, which could
be
anybody.
Today it's China. All right. So yeah, before it was Russia, and today it's China. It's just like they said. It's just like Ross said in the interview. JFK and the leader of Russia didn't realize that they were not in control until they realized that they weren't in control. And once they realized that there was somebody else pulling the strings, it backed them off from going to nuclear war with each other. I mean, it's crazy to me how the president of the United States can be withheld, national security information
because he doesn't have the right clearance, because
or they need to know. He doesn't have the need to know,
or because they are temporary employees.
Yeah, that's crazy to me. I mean,
like the fact that there's this other group of people that thinks that like the president just isn't going to be around long enough to need to know this kind of stuff. Wild.
Yeah, I mean, if the president is our elected leader, that is the person that is supposed to have all the information so that they can make the best decision possible, for everybody involved. Right. Yeah. And I mean, it's absurd to me that they are withheld information because they don't have a need to know. I think, I think if anybody has a need to know, it's them.
Exactly.
For
real.
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, this kind of like lends to what we were talking about in the last story, to where it's like, there's nuclear stuff that's involved in the UFO phenomenon, and it also ties into the fact that there's this other group of people that are operating things behind the scenes, like secretly behind the curtain type of status.
Mhm.
And the president is not even good enough to know what the heck is going on. So it's just there's so much involved in this.
Yeah.
It is insane. Like once you start digging deep and realizing how many ties this whole UFO thing has, and to where and to who and to when, you're just like, what? Well, at least I am. At least I am. But anyway,
it's definitely mind-blowing.
Yeah, for sure. In addition to that, we have a tweet from Ross Coulthart that says, extraordinary new admission from Harold Mamgren that he was briefed on other world technologies by CIA's Richard Bissell. Malmgren is a former senior aide to U.S. Presidents John F. Kennedy, Lyndon B. Johnson, Richard Nixon, and Gerald Ford, in which he was replying to this tweet from the actual Herald saying, 60 plus years ago, I was provided highest level classifications to lead DoD work on nuclear weapons and anti-missile defense. Informally briefed on other world technologies by CIA's Richard Bissell, who had been in charge of Skunk Works, Area 51, Los Alamos, etc., but was sworn to secrecy. So there you have it again, guys. Like, there you have it again.
Yeah, it's just another piece of information from somebody that was there, actually there,
Yeah.
And he's saying that he was briefed, although informally, but he was still briefed on the existence of UAP,
By the CIA.
Right. And that's just another piece of confirmation that JFK was definitely in the know about UAP.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, you can't make this up,
Just think about the implications of all that. Like the fact that him and Russia were like trying to do something and they got pulled away, and then they both died. Like mental explosions going on. Anyways,
Right.
Yeah, I just think this is wild, and more information is going to keep coming out. It just seems like before we were getting like drip fed little things every now and then, but like now somebody turned the freaking faucet open and we're going to get like a. So yeah, I just feel it coming. There's just a lot of information coming forward that's providing a lot of clarity, and taking a lot of strings and connecting them on the murder board.
The murder board.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so if you'd like to watch the rest of that video on your own, as always, the links to this document, along with all other sources featured in this show, can be found in the video description box below in the order that they appear, so make sure to check that out.
In this next story, we're going to hear from John Boroughs, former U.S. Air Force member, and learn how he received full medical disability and a statement from the DoD and VA after admitting he was injured by a UAP in the famous 1980s Rendlesham Forest incident. So this was posted August 8th. A tweet from RDR UAP reporter says, breaking, I have just been told by a reliable source that proof military personnel were injured in the line of duty by UAP will be coming this year.
And then 2 days later, they followed up with this. Breaking UAP news. The following statement and images are from John Boroughs. Quote, Toby is correct. News Nation reached out to me about my documents for an upcoming piece on military injuries. The TV series Unidentified wanted the documents after reviewing them during the production shoot they conducted. I declined. Netflix recently featured my case on an episode of the new show, Files of the Unexplained, in which Chris Mellon confirmed that my military records were classified. I also was contacted by the Aero Committee to appear in front of them and meet with part of the Gang of Eight. I declined. Toby wrote an article on that after viewing the emails exchanged, linked below. Lue Elizondo talks about my settlement in his upcoming book, along with George Knapp on his podcast and Gary Nolan on Tucker Carlson. The reason why I've held back these documents is simple. None of these shows wanted to fill in all the blanks on what took place to receive my settlement. Files of the Unexplained came the closest. A lot of good people helped me, and the entire story needs to be told when I release the documents, as this is a complicated matter. It's time to do that. Shortly, a video production will be released covering it all to include the supporting evidence. Toby will also be writing an article on the documents. I understand your frustration with the way things have proceeded since December of 2017. I hope this upcoming video will help clear up what happened to me and one other person who received a rating for injuries we received during the Rendlesham Forest incident. John Boroughs said 8/10/2024. End quote.
Wow.
Well, I was right.
Then on August 12th, Pavel tweeted out, "So, after RDR Incident released that interview with John Boroughs, John was gracious enough to be on Psychoactivo podcast to discuss in detail what was brought up in the first interview. Here's Mr. Boroughs with no filters and his thoughts on how his Rendlesham Forest UFO injury story has been handled and told. Check it out and let me know what you think."
What's up, humans? Welcome to a new Psychoactivo. Today, I have a very special guest who I saw from tweets released by my friend Toby Martinez at the Roswell Daily Record. This is a man who used to be in the Air Force, and he is part of the Rendlesham Forest UFO case. If I could say, he's the most important person in that case. Mr. John Boroughs. How are you, sir? Welcome to Psychoactivo.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. First of all, I want to start by telling you thank you for your service, because I do have the utmost respect for people who were in the military. So thank you for your service, sir. I do. So basically, when I saw the tweet, just to give you like an idea of what interested me on the topic, because I already knew about this case. I've been following the Professor Simon Holland's interviews with you, and you guys have been doing amazing work. Very interesting, very compelling. But this tweet talks about an email exchange you had with people from News Nation, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Correct. This is News Nation's one of many that have reached out to my lawyer, Pat Frascogna, and I. Then they want, and I want to make this clear because there's been some online, there's been a chatter going on about what they want. Okay. They want the documents that I received from the VA for my settlement. I ended up getting a VA disability settlement and VA care for the injuries that happened in Rendlesham Forest. My military records, my medical records are still classified. And let me clear this up for all the naysayers. If you've been in the military, you'll know if you're in something that they classify for whatever reason, and I'm not telling you exactly why these are classified, only they know. If you're involved in an incident like that, all the documents to support that incident will be classified. And it will be up to the people involved how or if they want to release any of those documents. So for whatever reason, my medical records were classified and I could not have access to it. United States senators couldn't have access to it. The civilian doctors weren't allowed access to them. The only doctors that have recently gotten access to it is the VA doctors, and that's all streamlined through the chief of cardiology at Indianapolis in Indiana.
Because when I started hearing about these injuries from UAP incidents, the first person I heard talking about this was Dr. Gary Nolan. He spoke about it on Fox News. Do you remember that?
Well, yeah, Gary Nolan, him and Colin Kelleher, Gary flew from San Francisco down to Vegas, and they drove together down to Flagstaff, Arizona, where I was at the time, and they tried to get my DNA. They wanted my DNA, and I declined. So, yeah, he actually did go on and talk a little bit about it on Tucker. He talked about the Rendlesham case.
What happened at Rendlesham? Just a quick rundown for the people who don't know about the case. This was in 1980?
Yes,
correct?
The incident, and I'll lay it out for people to understand. The incident took place in December of 1980. Now, there was other things that happened prior to our incident, and there were things that went on after our incident. So this wasn't an exclusive time frame of over 3 days where different things have been seen and take place. But these particular days are the ones that are most documented on what took place. And it was a 3-night period. It started when we came on duty, when I came on duty on my last midnight shift. It would have been on a Thursday night, December 25th. And it took place into the early morning hours of December 26th. It started about 0300 on Boxing Day. And what happened was we saw some strange lights outside the base perimeter, and the guy that initially saw it felt it went into the forest. Sent down a security unit. They verified there was something in the forest. There was lights emitting in the forest. So he talked to CSC, and they decided to send a 3-man team, myself and 2 security guys, into the forest to investigate what took place. One of the reasons why is we went out there, and there's been debates on this, but it was a fact. They contacted RAPCON and Bentwater's radar, and CSC and the command post went through Eastern radar, and there was confirmation that there was something seen on radar that went down into the forest. That's the only reason why we could go off base. There was no immediate threat to the base. There was something that appeared to go down into the forest just outside the base perimeter. We went out into the forest. We had some kind of an encounter. And what I mean is we encountered something of unknown origin. We weren't sure what it was. It just went on for over an hour. Eventually, it disappeared. We came back to the base, went in for a quick briefing in the morning, and then went back out to the site and found some evidence of something in the area where we saw this, whatever it was. There was some physical evidence to support that something was there, what we saw. Okay, that was night 1. Night 2, we went on break. The midnight shift light that took over, D flight, they saw some strange lights again. They investigated. A shift commander got involved. Allegedly, because I never heard this firsthand, just secondhand, she had an encounter with something which shut her vehicle off, caused her to lose her composure, and she got relieved of duty from that. On night 3 is when it came back again. Colonel Halt at this time got notified, and he and the team went out there, and they started having interaction. There's a tape out there called the Halt tape. You can find it online, where he's talking about what's going on as they're out there. And eventually I met up with this team, and I was allowed to go forward when there was some lights coming towards us with another individual part of his team. And we had an interaction with this, and people keep asking, which night did I get injured? Not sure, but the first night's more gray area. But the third night, the guy that was with me saw me go into this ball of light, or this light, and he saw me disappear and then reappear.
Wow.
Do you not remember this?
No, both nights when I got close to something, I have no real memory of what took place, why I got close to it.
Whoa.
That's
Okay.
interesting.
Whoa,
So that's
real.
the gist of it. Then it got covered up. And what I mean by covered up, it didn't get out. They leaked out a story to some investigators in the UK saying there was an alien contact in the base. That pretty much killed the story for, I think it would have been, 80 to about, I think it was 83 or 84, when they continued, these investigators, to pursue it. There was some stuff done in the States, and they were able to get a document, and it's online, called the Halt Memo. And News of the World ran with the story, and then it was off to the races after that. Everybody started getting involved, CNN, everybody else wanting to know what happened in Rendlesham.
So I'm still stuck on the whoa part, where he was talking about how he was witnessed going up into a ball of light and then seen returning from a ball of light.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's not an alien abduction, WTF is. I mean, hello, right?
Right. What gets me is he has no memory of it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not the first time that we've heard that either.
Mm-hmm.
Is people being abducted and then having no memory, or the memory has been repressed somehow,
Mm-hmm.
and it's only come back to light through some sort of hypnosis, right? Or some other traumatic event happens, and all of a sudden they have all these floods of memories. It's pretty crazy, it's wild to think about, but it's interesting for sure.
The missing time aspect is very, very interesting to me, especially because, like, the people that have been abducted talk about, so like the people on Earth talk about how, they were gone for, let's say, 7 minutes, right? But then the people who were abducted, who were having this experience on this craft, feel like they lived out a much longer period of time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the time and the space in the spaceship somehow is different from what we're experiencing here. So it's like 7 minutes Earth time could be like 3 days on the ship time. I don't even know how to explain what the heck I'm trying to say.
Okay,
but basically time and space is different.
Yes.
And that's trippy to me.
That's explained by physics. To be honest, that's explained by hardcore science, science fact, as we understand science today.
Okay.
So I mean, so if you have an atomic clock, if you have two atomic clocks, and you keep one down here on Earth, and you send one up into space on the space station, send it up there for a year, and by the time that you bring it back, they're not going to show the same time. They're going to be different.
Yeah.
Right.
That's why they talk about astronauts aging differently.
Yes, the clock that's in space will be a little bit slower than the clock that stayed here on Earth. So if these craft are operating in a quote unquote gravity bubble, a very intense gravity bubble, time is going a lot faster inside of this gravity bubble relative to everybody else on the outside.
Yeah.
So that makes sense to me.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Another point that I find interesting about this whole story is that John is receiving full medical disability, and he got a settlement from the Department of Defense and the VA, which is the Veterans Hospital. So, I mean, again, it just goes back to the fact that the government is like trying to deny that these things exist, yet their own military men are on full medical and received a settlement from their injuries related to a UAP encounter. It's like, I don't know how they could keep up this charade of like nothing to see here, but they're still trying. But I also find it interesting that John's talking about how his story is going to come out in detail with the receipts in a new film. What film is that?
Right.
We don't know. Maybe it's something else I need to add to my 2024 unknown list. Or maybe the film he's referring to is the other documentary that we don't know. Because remember, we had James Fox's and then other. Maybe this is the other. Or maybe this is another other. Ooh.
Another other.
Another other.
Another other. Okay. We're going to coin that one.
So what do you guys think? Were you aware that there are military personnel receiving full medical disability and settlements from the DoD and VA for injuries received related to a prolonged encounter with a UAP? How do you think that this ties in with Havana syndrome? Ooh, we didn't even mention that part. I forgot to talk about that.
Right.
How many other military folks have UAP-related injuries? Let us know in the comment section below. Coming up next, James Fox's upcoming documentary, The Program, is done, and he's looking for investors. That's right. Another highly anticipated event due to occur by the end of 2024 has come up this week. James Fox, known for making films like I Know What I Saw, The Phenomenon, and Moment of Contact, has completed his most recent project, a documentary called The Program, and he needs your help promoting it. A tweet from James says, "One more day of audio post for The Program here in LA. Trailer to follow. Because all of the nonsense with distributors, we have decided to release film independently, so looking for an investor. If interested and serious, please message me. Let's go!"
It's a bigger, more complex issue than most people probably appreciate when they just say, well, why don't they just tell us what's going on, be more transparent? Well, there's a lot of things have to happen before you get to that point.
Today, we stand at a pivotal moment in history. The question before us is not just about unidentified anomalous phenomena, but about the very principles of transparency, accountability, and trust between the government and the people it serves.
Some of these crash retrieval programs, and maybe
for whistleblowers and for the protection of whistleblowers.
There remains an ongoing official public effort to investigate what is really known about UAP.
And to say, until I've seen evidence, I'm just not going to accept this. Can't blame them. I mean, that in fact is a scientific position.
If they got the clearances and were exposed to some of the evidence that you've seen, would it be a different story?
It'd be a different story about how they felt about it, sure. But then they couldn't tell their friends or their wives or whatever. So they would be in the position of people that are on the other side. And so if they tried to tell somebody, they would get the same response to them as, well, prove it to me, show me some proof. And they wouldn't be able to do it. So that's what happens.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
A growing number of high-level insiders.
Dun, dun, dun.
Super interesting.
Right.
You know, it's man, I love those documentaries.
Mm-hmm.
You know, especially it's I don't know, I love it.
Same.
So as of 16 hours ago, he tweeted this, and just like that, the program is done. It was a very tough production. The short timeline and external factors being ripped off that significantly added to an already challenging project. Alas, when the going gets tough, ... and everybody knows the tough gets going.
Right. So yay, this is another one of those things on the list that's done. I mean, he needs money to promote it, not to finish it, right? So he needs money to like get all the trailers out there, do the social media things, you know, get people interested. But it's done. It's done.
Yeah. You know,
he's been teasing us with them little kind of clip things all this time, and now it's finally done.
Right. So I am super excited for it. I can't wait. You know, I wonder how long it's going to take before we can actually buy it or watch it, you know.
Yeah, somebody actually asked him that in the reply section of the tweet, and he said, I'm trying to remember what he said. I don't want to say the wrong thing, but I'm pretty sure he said, keep you posted kind of thing, like I don't know yet, but like stay tuned, I'll let you know soon kind of thing. So yeah.
I believe I also read that he said there was a promoter or an agent that watched the film today and his jaw hit the floor.
Oh yeah, I remember reading
you know,
that too.
and then he was trying to fish it out to 16 different distributors. So
I'm sure somebody will pick it up.
Oh, absolutely,
I'm sure somebody will pick it up.
I'm pretty sure his documentaries make money, so that's, you know, the big reason why an investor would want to invest.
Right.
Is to, you know, be able to make money off of his investment. So if anybody out there that's watching this is in the position to invest, please reach out to him. We will be eternally grateful.
Right. So like Justin said, are you an investor that can help James out? If so, contact him. See what I did there?
Yep.
Pun intended. All right. As always, the link to this tweet, along with all other sources, can be found in the video description box below in the order that they appear. So make sure to check that out.
And last but not least, new UFOs over Cali. So late in the week, news of a mass UFO sighting over California surfaced online and quickly had everyone buzzing about it. A tweet from Raw's Alert says, breaking, numerous people reporting UFO sightings in the sky, with reports of 6 flying saucers zigzagging in the sky. Currently, numerous people are reporting UFO sightings in the Palmdale and Lancaster areas of California. Witnesses on Ring neighborhood apps are describing various observations. Some initially thought they saw a shooting star, only for it to abruptly stop and zigzag.
Ooh.
One person reported, I was walking my dog in my backyard and saw a bright light in the sky. To my dismay, it was a hovercraft. Another comment read, I was intrigued by a neighbor's report of a UFO. So my mom and I went outside to see if we could spot anything. Although we couldn't confidently identify them as flying saucers, we counted 6 objects after being out there for about 10 minutes. Officials and law enforcement are investigating these reports. To allegedly corroborate that, a tweet from Think Tank says, a video from last night's mass sighting in California. Let's take a look.
Oh, what is that, Mom?
What?
Ma, you see this?
No. Holy shit!
What
the hell is that?
What is happening? You guys see this? Oh my god, what the fuck is happening? What is that? What is that? Oh, what is that, Mom?
What?
Ma, you see this?
No. Holy shit!
What
the hell is that?
What is happening? You guys see this? Oh my god, what the fuck?
I don't think that video is what people were describing. I don't know.
No.
That video seems suspect to me for 2 reasons.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, the video shown in it doesn't match what we just read in the tweet about like 6 things together zigzagging around. What we just saw doesn't match that description, first of all. And second of all, I don't like how there seems to be like audio that's in that video that doesn't relate to what we're seeing, because the first part seems legit, but then like at some point it sounds like the kid's running and he's like
Yeah, and the video
but the
clearly
video
is
is
not
still
running.
right. So it's to me, as like, now that I know what editing feels like, it seems like he edited in an audio from a different event over. I don't know. It just doesn't line up for me. What do you think?
I don't think that's the original audio for that video.
Right, but do you think that that video is
the video is from?
Yeah.
The video appears to be from California. I don't think that's what people were describing, to be honest. So that video is highly sus to me.
Yeah, me too.
Mhm.
Me too. But like a lot of people were talking about it online.
So yeah, I don't think that is the original audio for that video at all. The kid is totally running in the video, you know, and obviously the video is not of somebody running, you know. Furthermore, like we said a minute ago, the lights that we see in the video is not what people quote unquote described.
Yeah.
So yeah, that video is highly sus to me. The other video that's circulating of this incident really don't show what was being described either. You know, there's some mismatches there. There's one video is from a Pokemon drone show that was filmed in Hawaii, so not even from California.
Okay.
There's another video of a cluster of lights in the sky. You know, I don't know what that is. I don't. Those could be UAP, but that's not from this incident. Those were recorded back in 2022. There's also another video of an object that somebody who lives in Northern California filmed. It's not related to this incident, but it was allegedly filmed on the same night. And that is just showing a very bright light that's kind of moving slowly in the sky. You know, that is the most, or that is the closest to what was being described on the Ring neighborhood app, along with all what the other people were saying, in my opinion. However, that wasn't even from the Palmdale Lancaster area. That was from Northern California.
Okay, so I'm left with questions. I'm left with where are the actual videos of these, you know, the Ring camera videos of this event? Where are they? And then why are there so many other videos that are being presented as from this event, but are from like all these other places and things that happen? Like, why is there so much like mud in the water in this situation?
Yeah,
weird. It's kind of weird.
It is weird, you know, and honestly, it's giving me Miami Mall incident vibes, to be honest.
You're funny.
Well, you know, it was shown that the Miami Mall incident was a huge hoax that was created by a YouTuber who set out to create a hoax and get everybody to believe it. He said he fabricated the story, and then he made like over 300 different accounts on I'm pretty sure it was Twitter or X, over 300 different accounts where he started retweeting his original claim and original video, and then it caught on like wildfire, and then everybody started talking about it, you know. And he has a long video of him doing this whole entire Miami Mall incident hoax.
I don't think I even knew about that.
Yeah. So anyway, go watch that. That's interesting. But it just goes to show you that you can't always believe everything that you see circulating online just because everybody's talking about it. You know, I'll be honest. I'm highly suspect of this whole incident. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if it's just somebody else trying to make another hoax, trying to get everybody to believe in something that didn't actually happen.
Well, I just found it interesting that they were talking about California, because just like, I don't remember if it was last week or the week before, but we covered Jeremy Corbell talking about California UFO sighting that happened on a Tuesday night at like 8 o'clock or something, something like that.
Right.
And it happened near Catalina Island, and that he was looking for people if they had videos to send them into him so that he can like put it all together, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. This story is rubbing me the wrong way just because of all the inconsistencies. I don't know what to think or where to put my thoughts. So we're just going to move on to a different UFO sighting. All right. So switch gears really quickly. So in addition to that, but like totally unrelated, we have another video of a UFO sighting. This one filmed by pilots inside the cockpit of the plane that they were flying. A tweet from Vicky Verma says, pilots flying from Saudi Arabia to Nigeria in a Boeing 747 just had a multi-UFO encounter and filmed it. Multiple UFOs moving erratically. One pilot says they were extremely bright and moved freely as well as in formation. Quote, they seemed to entertain us, dancing, making us awake when we were sleepy, end quote.
That's super interesting.
Let's take it out.
Ini asal ke dunia aja and they are dressing for this. Wow. Ooh, very bright now. Wow. Ooh, it's bright. That's UFO. Sometimes on, sometimes off, sometimes off again. Right.
Yeah, look how bright that is.
Right? It looks like the moon.
Is that the star? You get it? Shine. Yeah. Shine.
Which conflict? Two of them now, the same position. Right in.
Yeah. Woo.
That one is below, right? Cannot be said like, oh, wallah, Habibi.
There's only one. Guys, ooh. That's the new unidentified flying objects, UFO. Guys, ini bukanlah karangan atau gambar yang dibuat-buat, tapi ini adalah pengalaman saya melihat sesuatu yang aneh atau anomali UFO atau unidentified flying object, benda terbang yang tidak terindikasi. Yang kami lihat memang masih misteri. Benda apakah itu? Berada di angkasa dan menari-nari. Sebelumnya kami menyangka cahaya itu adalah pesawat, tapi tidak ada di radar kami. Terus kami menyangka kalau mungkin itu bintang, tapi kelipan bintang berkelip cepat dan bintang tidak bergerak. Sedangkan cahaya UFO bersinar lama dan bergerak. Kemudian kami menyangka pula bahwa kemungkinan cahaya tersebut adalah satelit, karena saat ini banyak satelit dari Starlink yang baru diluncurkan oleh Elon Musk. Tetapi tidak mungkin satelit bergerak seperti itu, karena cahaya UFO di depan kami bergerak bebas, kadang maju, mundur, kadang kiri, kanan, atau sebaliknya. Dan mereka bisa bercahaya berempat bersamaan dengan bergerak membuat formasi. Tetapi di luar itu, mereka tidak mengganggu kami. Malahan mereka sepertinya menghibur kami, menari-nari, membuat kami melek di saat kami mengantuk. Dan kadang mereka juga mengedipkan cahaya seperti mereka ingin memberikan suatu pesan.
That video is very interesting. It's very interesting to me because it doesn't appear. It's definitely not another airplane. Mm-hmm. It's most likely not a satellite because he said it was moving forward and backward, up and down. Mm-hmm. Satellites don't readily move like that. And also, if that were a satellite, that would have only been visible to them for a few minutes. This light stayed with the airplane for a very long period of time. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I find this one to be way more credible than the first story. I don't know. Maybe if other videos come forward from the first story, I'll feel differently about it. But in comparing the two, I find this one to be way more credible. And they appeared at different times. Like it wasn't just like a once and then gone thing. Mm-hmm. They like came back and went away, came back and went away. Sometimes it was one, sometimes it was two, sometimes they were stationary, sometimes they were zigzagging.
Right.
So I just thought it was really cool that the pilot interpreted it interpreted it as that they were like entertaining them and trying to like keep them awake when they felt sleepy. Like rather than being like threatened by it and going, oh my God, I'm in fear for my life. No, they were like, oh, look, they're entertaining us. Cute. Thanks for the dance. Like, thanks for the performance.
Right. And, you know, anytime that pilots report something, to me, that automatically is more credible, you know, simply because, you know, these people fly airplanes for a living. You know, they know what other airplanes in the sky look like. You know, these are trained observers, right? So these people are highly trained, you know, and very smart, very intelligent people, you know, that obviously, of course, they thought about, well, maybe it's a satellite, or maybe it's a this, or maybe it's a that, you know, and then when you can't rule it out by those explanations, then what's left, you know? I mean, so this sighting to me is a lot more credible than the first one.
Agreed.
You know, for obvious reasons.
Yep, I agree. So are you also a UAP sighting video enthusiast like we are? What are your thoughts on these sightings? Make sure to join the UAP Society Discord server and share with the community what you think. An invite link can be found in the video description box below. And that concludes this week's UAP Society Weekly UAP and UFO News Show. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. And while you're here, please do us a favor and smash that like button, click subscribe, ring our little notification bell, drop a lovely comment down below, and share this video with your family and friends to help us spread the good word. Let's raise the collective consciousness together in unity.
All right, much love.
Much love. Peace and namaste.